So I'm going to talk about the OCTA for wide field view imaging, and also to look at the quantification of the vasculature information using the OCTA. And I have 3 parts of the talk. I think because of timing, probably I only may make 2 topics. The first topic is to look at the wide field of view imaging. And the second topic I'm going to talk about using to remove the projection artifacts for more accurate, more precise quantification of the vasculatures in the retina and also in the choroid as well. And if I have time, I'm going to talk about using the OCTA to quantify the choriocapillaris using the sweat source OCT. Okay, and this is my disclosure. I do have the conflict of interest with cowardice. And first of all, I want to thank my local collaborators over here, and also external collaborators from Vascular Palma and cowardice, and also, of course, with Professor Wang in Shanghai as well. And my team members who give me the results to present for today's presentation. And first of all, we know that diabetic retinopathy leads to capillary closure. And so typical method we're using in the clinic, as you know, I'm an engineer, you are the doctors, you know this better than me. So you use the fundus. You can use the fundus camera, the typical fundus camera, and also use the fluorescence angiogram, to look at the capillary features in the diabetic retinopathy. However, this is kind of, particularly for the FA, is an invasive approach. And also the fundus camera and also FA does not give you 3D information, because the vasculatures in the retina is actually 3D information. And so for this, the advent of the OCT angiography really needs to help us to visualize the capillary non-perfusions in the diabetes. And so this is the example of the angioplex using the 3x3 scans and also 12x12 scans. So from this OCTA, you can appreciate very clearly the vasculature non-perfusion in this patient, the DR patient. And also you can, using the OCTA scan, to quantify the FAZ, so foveal vascular zone, very accurate. And so this is from the plex elite sweat source OCT, and angioplex can do as well as the plex elite. And so most recent development is the release of the angioplex matrix. So angioplex matrix can give you quantification information for the retinal vasculatures. And the most important point in the angioplex matrix is that you can quantify the same patient in the follow-up. So basically, the angioplex matrix can precisely co-register the second of the follow-up scans with the initial scans. And this will be, so machine is automatic co-register, which is important for comparison or to look at or to monitor the progress of the treatment progress of the disease. So angioplex matrix right now can give you the quantifiable matrix of this vascular density and also perfusion density. Vascular density is actually the skeletal density of the vessels. And perfusion density is actually a measure to look at the vascular area density. Okay, and also the matrix can give you the automatic measurement of the FAZ zone, which is a very important parameter to look at the DA patient or DR patient. And so this is an example of how machine looks like. So this is the first scan. In the machine, you can have the structure display and also the vasculature display. and then the patient coming back again in the second visit. So the machine will automatically find the first time scan and lock there and to scan the patient, which is very important to follow up the treatment. Yeah, okay, so that's, you will have the handle to look at how deep, the depth information of the vasculature you look at. Yeah, so this is you can do the automatic quantification, and also you can adjust manually the thickness of the retinal layers to do the projection for the vasculatures. So this is a feature for the angioplex matrix, which will be released very soon for the angioplex. And however, as you see in this image, this is only 3x3 scans. And for the diabetic retinopathy, actually what you want, probably you want a wider field of view. And so this is the 3x3 scans for the angioplex or plex elite. So 3x3 scans only covers the central area, right? And however, the peripheral area you cannot see very clearly from the OCTA scans. And however, for the plex elite and angioplex, you have 6x6 scans, which covers wider field of view, but still does not cover the peripheral information at all. And for the plex elite, you can do 12x12 scans, so that you can cover wider field of view. And even 9x15 scans in the plex elite, you can do that in one scan and get this kind of information. But still, the peripheral information, for example, in this ER patient, does not cover the wider view, so peripheral information. So therefore, to use the OCTA to look at this peripheral information, you really need to come up with a stitching technique or montage technique. And so in this case, so in the angioplex machine, you can have this motion tracking features and to do the montaging, so that you can have ultra wide field of view. Okay, and this motion tracking works for the angioplex and also plex elite. Okay, so both machines can do this. Now I gave you an example of this ultra-wide field of view scans using the montaging scanning protocol. And I have this 3x3, 6x6, and 12x12 scans overlaid on this ultra-wide field of view. And as you can see, that this ultra-wide field of view really gives you a more detailed information in the periphery, which is pretty important for the early assessment of the diabetic retinopathy. Okay, and so for this, because you have about 110 degrees field of view, and this gives you an opportunity to quantify the 7 defined ETRS field of view assessment for the quantification. So for example, over here, this is the Optos FA fundus image, and you have a 7 field of view for the standard ETRS field. And you can overlay this 7 field on your scans and to quantify within this 7 field and also outside this 7 field. Okay, and so you can use the matrix to look at this long perfusion in this ultra-wide field. As you can see, in this 7 field, the non-perfusion is actually less than peripheral. Okay, which indicates that the peripheral information really gives you more diagnostic information, which is, I think, that's probably important for the diagnosis and also follow-up of the treatment efficacy. And you can also to use this matrix to look at the diameter map, vessel diameter map, and this diameter map. Yeah, both within the 7 field of view and also outside the 7 ETRS field. And also you can look at the vessel density map, which is basically perfusion index. Okay, and also you can quantify the complexity of the blood vessels. And complexity is similar to the fractal dimension, yeah, in the quantification. And so all these parameters can be provided by the future matrix software, so that you can have this software to do automatic quantification of these 5 parameters in the retina. And so this is a take-home message for the ultra-wide field of view scans. So actually, the release of the angioplasty matrix helps you to do more effective chronic disease management. And ultra-wide field of view of scans of the OCTA up to 150 degrees is possible using the motion tracking mechanism. And so of course, OCTA provides the vascular information in more detail than the FA and the ICGA. And it's now possible to provide a quantitative vasculature assessment in 7 defined EDTRS regions and more periphery, of course, of the DR patient for both angioplex and plexi lead. So this is the first topic I talk. And the second topic I'm going to talk about is the projection artifacts removal. And I think so the Professor Jia is going to talk about this as well. And I'm going to do this very quickly. Okay, so this is a kind of, we are using a method that is a little bit different from Professor Jia, because Professor Jia is looking at the 3D projection artifacts removal, and while our approach is using 2D unfast projection artifacts removal, which somehow has kind of more clinical utility to use, because right now clinicians are used to 2D projections. Yeah, and and I just give you walk you through an example of the CNV quantification with the projection artifact removal. For the CNV visualization, we have defined a slab layer called outer retina. From this layer is defined from the deep retinal plexus to the RPE layer. Okay, so this layer is called the org layer. And if you look at the org layer projection, so you will have this kind of information of the vasculatures. And this is a normal subject, so actually for the normal subject, in this org layer, you should not see any vasculatures here, right? And so all the vasculature you see here is actually projection artifacts from the top of the retinal layer. And so therefore, if you want to visualize the vasculatures, for example, in CMV case, you have to remove these projection artifacts, right? So how can we do that? And this is an example of a man walking in the street in the night. So for this man, you have this man projected onto this wall, right? This shadow here is the projection artifacts, which we do not want. And what we want is the accurate information of this wall information, while we want to remove this projection in the wall. And so this is kind of an idea that inspired us to develop the projection artifacts removal algorithm. And now I walk you through the method. And so this is a disease case to look at the CNV, and this is a target, so-called org layer, right? And you have the retinal vasculatures, and this is retinal vasculatures here. And if you will look at the target of this CNV org layer, so you have this information, right? And here you have lots of projection artifacts from these retinal vessels. And now, so as I just talked about in the wall information, you have this so-called background information. So this is structure information, and you plug this structure information into this equation, and then you run this equation, and then you can have this projection artifacts remove information. So therefore, this is kind of final results, and final results with the projection artifacts removed. So in this case, so if you want to look at the CNV in this patient, so you can have very clear CNV lesions. Okay, and So now, so I just walk you through really quickly for the RAP lesion example. And this is a RAP lesion. So RAP lesion, you have the vessel, anatomic vessel from the retinal, go to the colloid. Yeah, okay. And so this is the ICGA information. As you can see from this ICGA, for the first visit for the patient, you see this RAP over here, right? And this patient we've followed up for more than 2 years, okay? And so this is the follow-up of the org layers at the different scan time points. And here, as you can see, that the projection artifact is enormous. So if you want to look at the RAP lesion, that's almost impossible because of this projection artifact problem. And if you now apply this projection artifact remove algorithm, so you will have this information. And in this case, so you can see the dots over here, this one, and this one, and this one, all the dots, that's the vessel runs from the retina to the colloid, is contrasted, which means that the algorithm is very sensitive to single vessels, vertical vessels, okay? And in this patient, about 3 years ago, actually, 2.5 years ago, this patient further developed the CMV, okay? And as you can see, the projection artifact remove algorithm works pretty well to look at this development from the RAP lesion to the later stage of CMV, okay? And this is 3x3 scans, and as you can see, the 3x3 scan at the later stage, this lesion grows pretty fast. It's outside the 3x3 scans. And so this algorithm also works for 6x6 scans. And so this is the same patient, we use the 6x6 scans, and the projection artifacts are removed in this case. And as you can see, the lesion is quite clearly visualized. And you can also quantify the lesion size. Yeah, and this is the lesion size measurement. As you can see, the lesion is growing over the time. Okay, and because I'm an engineer, I cannot do any selection for the treatment for this patient. Actually, this patient receives twice the anti-VEGF injection over the time of the course of the disease development. And so take-home message is that the projection artifacts are the problems in the interpretation of the CMVs and also deep retinal vessels, as Professor Zhao will talk about, and which needs to be removed if you want to visualize the CMV lesions and also deep retinal vessels. And so this really needs to be removed in order for you to quantify the CMVs. Okay, how much time I left?
Let's go ahead.
Let's go ahead. Okay, but yeah, this can take longer. Okay. So I think just very quickly go through the. I think lots of people want to quantify the choriocapillaris. And so nowadays you have a spectral domain OCT system to look at the angiograms. And a spectral domain OCT uses the shorter wavelengths. That shorter wavelength has very high scattering to the RPE layer. So that high scattering will stop you to visualize the choriocapillaris. And so this is the physics. I will just ignore the physics over here. So why this? So when the OCT beam coming here, yeah. Sorry, I have mouse here. Right? Okay. So when the OCT beam coming to look at the retinal layer, and this retinal layer is very transparent. Yeah. So therefore, OCT is perfect to look at the retinal images. And when it comes to this choriocapillaris, because choriocapillaris has very small scattering size, so that scattering size gives you very strong scattering, which blocks your ability to visualize the vasculature in the choriocapillaris and also the colloid. Okay, so if you want to look at the choriocapillaris, so this is the layer you want to look at. Because of this high scattering, it will give you this kind of appearance, like Seattle weather. Seattle weather is really as in the raining weather, you don't see the building very clearly. Okay, so this is kind of effect. And also the elevation of the RPE layer gives the shadow effect from here. So the shadow effect to the shadow of the light goes further into the choriocapillaris. And if you look at the structural information, you will see this. So this is the drusen, so the elevation of the RPE. The drusen will give you a shadow. And that shadow is actually pretty important if you want to visualize the vessel information in this shadow. Because this shadow really reduces your ability to visualize the choriocapillaris, right? So if you want to look at this, so you have to compensate this shadow. Yeah, compensate the shadow. So this is the compensation method we are looking at. If you want to look at the compensation here, so this is the structural information you will have from this example of the drusen case, and this is the vasculature in the choriocapillaris, right? And now, because of this shadow, it will affect you to visualize the choriocapillaris under this shadow. So you want to compensate. And to compensate this, you just reverse this image and then multiply this image with this one. And then you can somehow bring the signal up in this shadow so that your quantification is more accurate. And now, so the structural information is compensated, but still you have the retinal projection artifacts, right? And in this case, you need to remove the retinal the vessel projection artifacts so that you can quantify more accurate the choriocapillaris. So the method we are using is, as I discussed before, so using this method that we published. And if you use this method to remove the projection artifacts, it is removed. So now, so you have this choriocapillaris information. And now, so you want to quantify the flow voids, so the area that are not profused. Okay, and in this case, we developed a method using this normal database, as a reference to threshold this image to get a non-perfusion area. And this is a non-perfusion area, and from this you can have the matrix to quantify the choriocapillaris. So this is the matrix that we have. So we call it flow deficit. Yeah. So it basically is all the areas of the void divided by your scanning area gives you a percentage of the flow deficit. And you can overlay this one over here. So that's the flow voids in this subject. And we tested how repeatable of the measurement. We use the drusen case, and we scan 3 times. In this three times scan, so you can see the variations. And this is without the compensation. And the variation is actually more than 1%. So if you do that, the compensation, so this variation is reduced to less than 0.5%. So in this, it indicated that the repeatability of the measurement is pretty good. So we use 20 subjects, 20 normal subjects, to test the repeatability and also produce a break. And 20 normal subjects and also 10 drusen subjects. And we also use different strategy of the 1 standard deviation and 1.5 and 2 standard deviation to see how repeatable is the measurement. And actually it turns out that the 1 standard deviation gives you best results. And now, so just go to this skyline of this Seattle. And so in order to see clearly these buildings in the raining Seattle weather, so I think the most efficient method is to the average, right? So it's actually working together with Basara in Los Angeles. So we look at this averaging approach to increase or to improve the visualization of the choriocapillaris. And this, so I just give you an example of the averaging effect. This is a single scan using the angioplex. And so from the single scan, so actually you don't see any patterns of the choriocapillaris. So actually choriocapillaris is kind of lobular structures. Okay, so if you do the twice average, so that's improved quite a lot. And 3 times average and 4 times average. So at the 4 times average, you can see quite clearly the lobular structures under the foreview. Yeah, and this has a very good agreement with the histology. Yeah, and if you go periphery about 9 millimeters superior to the central fovea, and you can see very clearly the lobular structures of the choriocapillaris. And this is a single scan, and 2 scan, 3 scan, and 4 scans. As you can see, that the 4 average gives a pretty clear choriocapillaris visualization, which is important to investigate the macular diseases. Yeah, and this is a comparison with the historic gold standard, which gives you a very good agreement. And so obvious question is that how many repeats you want to do the average, right? So this is we tested on 6 normal subjects. For each subject we scanned 10 times. So it turns out that the optimal average number is about 3 to 4. So basically, you do 3 repeats and do the average will give you enough good results. Yeah. So basically, more than 3 repeats or 4 repeats does not do you any better. Okay. And of course, averaging looks very nice, but it takes longer time to scan. So there's an obvious question for the patient compliance, right? And so the question is that, can the single scan still be used to quantify these choriocapillaris? And we actually tested using 5 averaging as a gold standard and compare with the single scan. And this is the results. And for the single scan, the correlation is actually pretty good, with a correlation of 0.77, which gives you very nice results. And you have the bias of 0.5% for each scans. So which means that you do a single scan probably enough, but you need to do the compensation for this 5% bias. Okay. So if you do a 2 repeat scans, the correlation has actually improved to 95%. Okay, which tells you that pretty accurate, right? Only so for the 2 repeat scan, the bias is only about bias is only about 2%. Okay. So with that, I just do the final summary. So highly scattering RPE and its deformation or elevation in the disease state prevent you to look at or to visualize the choriocapillaris in the OCTA. And the shadowing effect caused by the elevation of the RPE in the Julian case has to be compensated in order for you to more accurately quantify the choriocapillaris. And the projection artifacts need to be removed for the quantification. So average is a very good strategy for more accurate visualization of the choriocapillaris. So single, if you want just do a single scan and to do the quantification, so actually you have to compensate this bias. So if you do just single scan, about 5% bias, you need to compensate. And with that, I want to thank you. I think I'm over time. Okay.
谢谢。